Woman, Life, Freedom, a rallying cry that never felt more relevant than on this year's International Women's Day. The slogan emerged in Iran 6 months ago when people took to the streets following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in police custody. Since then, regular protests have been met with harsh, even deadly repression, and yet the fight continues in Iran and for those living in exile. Well, to tell us more, I'm joined by two Iranian women, journalist and writer Naïri Nahapétian. Thanks for being here. And artist and performer Hura Mirshekari. Hura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, Naïri, I know that socio-political issues are an important element of your writing. Your own autobiographical experience in Iran is in there too. Your book, Quitter Teheran, or Leaving Teheran, in its English title, is about your forced departure after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. What's it been like to watch the events of the last 6 months from afar?
Well, every time I go to Iran, I am surprised by the degree of maturity and modernity of the society. And I see that the law has nothing to do with this society. And every time I think this cannot last, it's not possible. It's too far away. The law is too far away from what the society is living. And every time I think, well, it cannot last. And when I see these revolutionary movements like Femme, Vie, Liberté, Woman, Life, Freedom, I think at last it has happened and the revolution is there. But unfortunately, I have seen that the repression is also very hard and it's not easy for the revolution to succeed. But I think the revolution is today inevitable, absolutely
Indeed.
Inevitable.
Yeah. And Hura, as an artist making creative work, do you feel like your purpose has changed over the last 6 months? Has this uprising made you feel like you have a more political role to play?
I think as I'm an artist and I'm from Sistan and Baluchistan, and Sistan and Baluchistan is border of Afghanistan, and there is so many limitation for the woman there. So I'm touching limitation there, and I'm come from where, and I'm. For me, it's very important how I can realize that with the art, and how I can be. I'm alone here. There is so many women can't be here today. But I think it's very important. We are artists, and we must be voice for some people. Is important is the woman can't be voice here. So after 6 months of the revolution with the Mahsa Amini, I think we have so many violence there. With the prison, poison, now they started attack the children at school and also the girl at school. That is very terrible thing. I think we gonna pass in the Iran. So, but still revolution is still there, and every time the people they're coming, but it is terrible because we lost so many beautiful girl and beautiful man who has in the future very good life and who can be so much powerful get in the world.
And indeed, we have seen huge crowds in the streets since September 2022, despite the violent, even fatal repression. The Iran Human Rights NGO believes that at least 481 people have been killed, tens of thousands arrested, including artists like director Jafar Panahi and actress Tarahne Ali-Douste. Both of them have been released since. Now, we've seen other protest movements in Iran over the last couple of decades. What do you think has pushed these high-profile figures, like artists, for example, to take these risks at this time?
Well, people in Iran are very attached to freedom. The regime tries to take the freedom away from them all the time, but people in Iran don't let the freedom be taken away from them. They take their freedom in everyday life, and censorship is very hard. You were talking about artists in the movies, and the Iranian cinema is very dynamic, very beautiful, but it has to deal with censorship, and people are fed up of censorship because it is absurd. It has the rules have nothing to do with the society, as I told you, and they want their freedom back, and they are every time I go to Iran, I am very surprised because as a journalist, I interview people, and I interview them by being very cautious, and people talk to me without being afraid at all. People are extremely courageous, and what they want is freedom.
Mm-hmm. Now, Hura, you mentioned the constraints on women specifically
Yes.
in your region. And Nairi, I know that you've written about the hijab, the Islamic veil, as a symbol of oppression for women. We've seen some of the women in these protests taking off their hijab, even burning it, which is a very powerful image. Do you think once this accessory disappears, the floodgates will be open, that things will improve for women?
Well, it has already almost disappeared in streets of Tehran. I know women don't put their veil anymore, although the regime is trying to prevent them from doing so. But the regime still has the power. They have the economic power because they have the money from the oil, and they have the power to repress, and they kill people, they kill children, they kill young people. So the revolution is not finished at all. But even before the revolution, women, before what I call the revolution is femme vie liberté, freedom, life, and women. Even before that, the women, they never put their veils the way the regime wanted to, and they took the freedom to do so.
Indeed. Now, you're based in Europe now and have been for a few years, and that work encompasses painting, music, and performance art. Let's take a look at one of those performances. This is Limitation.
و می‌داند همیشه در پس دیوار بتونی تک تیراندازی ماهر کمی نداند گاهی پرنده آواز می‌خواند پرنده ها آواز می‌خوانند دست‌های کوتاه هوا را چنگ می‌زنند
So, Hura, performance art is something we're accustomed to seeing here in galleries in Europe. You're actually performing in Paris next week. But those constraints imposed on women and women artists in Iran, they would have stopped you from having the career you have. What sort of art do you think you would have been able to make there?
It's the new project for me is the voice of the woman of the system. That's be very important because for first time, I'm the first woman of the system who can be sing. As I'm artist, I'm very happy to do everything for the women of my country. I think it's very interested because that's for first time for the culture of the system, because I know the culture of the system. There is so many religions and control is like Afghanistan. So with this new project, I want to broken every limitation for the woman. For me, it's like art, and even I was children, I very love to use my voice, but I can't because they say no, it's not good for the woman. So that's my experience for when I was children. For do everything, they say no, you are a woman. And when I coming here, I was like bird who want to flying, but who didn't believe to fly. So I'm get this chance here with the support of Atelier Artistes en Exil. They support me for the do this project. For that, we have two ideas. It's very important. One, the voice of the woman system who can't sing until now in the culture of the system, and deuxième chose is the language of the system. Now we lost this language with the children. They're shy for the speaking with the language of system. I think it's very important. We keep with this album. It's the name Aika Ensemble. We keep this. Language of system, and also we are voice of the woman who like to singing, but maybe in the future I'm sure they want to be sing more than
change. Should hopefully be on its way. Now, Naïri, I know that there is a gendered dimension to the protest taking place in Iran. Women's rights are very high on the agenda, but there's also been solidarity from men. How significant is that?
It's very significant because people are fed up of the global situation. The economic situation is very bad. The inflation is 40%. So can you imagine 40%? So people are globally very fed up with the regime being incompetent and not being capable of ruling the country anymore. Actually, they keep the power, but they are not capable of making the everyday life comfortable for people anymore. And there were rights in Iran, like the right to contraception, that was acquired, but even on that they are coming back and they are going backwards. So people are not going to stand that, and I don't think people will forget that they have been killing children and young people. I think that won't be forgotten, and that the revolution will be going on.
That indeed an entirely universal struggle. Well, Naïri and Hura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we'll wrap up the show with a film that now seems particularly prescient, The Red Suitcase, shortlisted for Best Live Action Short at this year's Academy Awards. It tells the story of a 16-year-old girl trying to escape an arranged marriage. Director Cyrus Neshfad said his hope was to make a feature that promoted freedom for Iranian women, and this was 2 years before the recent uprising. We'll leave you with a clip. Otherwise, do check out our website for more arts and culture. We're on social media too, and there's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
پشت کوها یه صبوره پشت دشتا یه طلایی پشت صحرا های خالی خونه ماست اون بره آب اون بره موجای بیتا پشت جنگل